So, in what probably is the worst kept secret in all of, well, current British political history, Boris Johnson is planning a comeback. And that should be obvious to everyone seeing it. His allies want him back. There are a number of MPs who think that they cannot win the next general election without him, and are having very, very serious thoughts about, oh God, no, we're going to elect Liz Truss, because there have been a number of polls come out very recently, not just recently, but the past sort of couple of weeks, that have gone, yeah, if Starmer goes head to head against Liz Truss, Starmer wins, which, don't get me wrong, fantastic news, by the way. But of course, it will make very, very worrying reading for the Tories. Not only that, they know all their seats in the Red Wall are on very, very shaky ground, as they have been since they sort of, took them over. They were hoping during the local elections to sort of sweep the Labour councils away, but that didn't happen. Not only did they lose Conservative councillors, but in those areas, those Labour councils became more entrenched, and they are terrified about these Labour councillors speaking out at the next general election, saying, this is what happened. You promised levelling up money. Well, you didn't deliver on that levelling up money. What happened? And there is we've talked about before, the very serious situation where in November, everything comes to a head. All these crises, from the cost of living crisis, the inflation crisis, the energy crisis, every single crisis comes together. The fact that we've got a situation where food banks are now having to turn people away because, well, people can't even afford to give donations to food banks. We are getting into a very, very serious situation. And, Keir Starmer came out yesterday and said, here's a plan how you solve the cost of living crisis. And the Tory response was nothing. Still nothing. Boris Johnson could have done something, but he's done nothing. And unfortunately, as we saw very recently in the video where we saw the average Tory voter, Boris Johnson is incredibly popular still within the Tory party. We've seen polls of people saying that, yes, they would much rather prefer Johnson continue on as Prime Minister, but also if this was a three-way race between Sunak, Truss and Johnson, Johnson would be steaming ahead. So beware, my friends. Johnson is certainly planning a comeback. And that is one of the reasons why we are seeing so much pushback and an attempt to try and completely, destroy the inquiry into did Johnson mislead Parliament or not. Hence Jacob Rees-Mogg's recent comments about that. Let's go diving into this, because there is a very clear plan here from some of Johnson's allies to want him back in desperately. So, before we go jumping into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page. I was in a loop there. Down below my Patreon page with the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's my Patreon page. There is the YouTube subscription down below as well, the Pony Club, and also there is the YouTube thank you button down there as well, where you can use that to help support the channel as well. So off we go over to the London Economic with their sort of story on this. And like I say, it's the worst kept secret in British political history. So Johnson's allies plotting a way back for the PM when Truss implodes. Boris Johnson and his allies are reportedly plotting a way back to number 10 for when Liz Truss implodes as Prime Minister. And we've talked about that before. November is when it's all going to happen. And according to the Sunday Mirror, the report is hoped the outgoing PM could be back at the helm before the next election if lame duck Truss flops. A well-placed Westminster insider said a disastrous first few months for Liz Truss's premiership would be seen as an opportunity for him to swoop in. And the second the Conservative Party source said, I think that we could well intensify things if things go badly for Liz. If you get people thinking, would he have been any worse? She's got strikes coming up, energy bills, inflation, the whole lot. And the PM is said to believe that if Truss doesn't quickly get a grip on any of these looming crises, Tory MPs would welcome his return as a winner who could save the party from electoral oblivion. And here's the thing, even if Jonson comes back, they haven't got a chance to solve any of these problems. Jonson hasn't got a plan now to solve these problems. Why do you think he'd have a plan in maybe, 12 to 6 months' time if he came back? What plan does he have? He's got nothing. So even then, they are going to be consigned to electoral oblivion. Yeah, he might be able to maybe convince a few people and, maybe not make it as bad as it might be, but it's still going to be a really bad loss for them. Anyway, continues. It sounds far-fetched, but I wouldn't put it past him. He feels hard done by and thinks he still has a lot to do, the source added. COVID really stopped any big projects or any governing at all. And really, he'd sooner rather make a clean run and a chance to make amends. Although he wouldn't call it making amends, because as far as he is concerned, he has done nothing wrong. A Labour source said, this sort of scheming just shows how out of touch the Tories are and why we need a fresh start with a Labour government. Boris Johnson has had his chance and he's been rejected by his party and the public. Boris Johnson should be focused on the cost of living crisis and in the country, but this sort of plotting shows he's only interested in himself. And yeah, this is the sad situation we're in. Jonson, if he was really serious about making a comeback, could be saying, okay, well, here's my solution to the cost of living crisis, and put forward an idea. And Jonson says, oh, he was hard done by COVID and he didn't really get to do any governing properly. Well, he didn't really seem interested in doing any governing to begin with. What big ideas was he really going to do? Yes, there was COVID, but it's not like it stopped him really from doing any of these big ideas. He still could have done them. The levelling up, Johnson's big central, campaign piece next to Brexit. Nothing's happened around that. That promise hasn't been fulfilled. The levelling up money hasn't gone to these places, as Rishi Sunak has even said. The levelling up money has at times been taken from one fund to do improvements or build fields, and then just relabeled the levelling up fund to make it look like stuff's going on. But these towns, these cities that are in desperate need of like serious financial support and actual economic aid haven't got anything, and they know it. And there is serious anger. And if you think Johnson can just come back, no way. Yeah, Johnson is massively misreading the mood of this country. No one wants him back. Even if he comes to a next general election, it is only a very small minority of the public who generally would actually want him back. And those are sort of very hardcore Tory voters. And even then, I still think he would lose a lot of those seats in the red wall. I still think it would be very much an electoral disaster for the Tories. And of course, the select committee is coming up. I think that is going to get him. But we'll see. We'll see. So, as always, thank you very much for stopping by and watching. As always, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a more affiliation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. You can also join the Pony Club down below as well with YouTube subscriptions, where you get emojis and badges. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button as well, where you can support the channel that way. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.